Hello, welcome to this Elite Dangerous Dev Diary. Today I'd like to talk about passengers. Now, passengers are something that have featured in Frontier before, but they were as an alternative essentially to carrying cargo. And the way I imagined it working is like on a present-day cargo ship, where you can choose to fit some passenger cabins, but it's still, you're mucking in with the crew. It's not a luxurious experience. Those cabins are, they're not the sort of features you'd expect to see in a modern day yacht or, for that matter, on a cruise ship or a liner. So that is an additional thing we're looking for Elite Dangerous to add. So we have a new class of ships, which is passenger ships. That means ships that are dedicated to being passenger ships. If you think of them as sort of large yachts or small liners, they carry a relatively small number of passengers in extreme luxury. You have large lounges that they can sort of literally lounge around in. And also, if you think of all the things that you might see on a ferry, duty free and all that sort of thing. So the point of these ships is they're beautiful. They're optimized for different things. They're generally fast, they're comfortable. They may carry a little bit of cargo, but it's incidental to their main task. And the other thing that we look at is I always thought of passengers as being essentially very interesting things to carry. I think in Frontier I always felt uncomfortable that you wouldn't expect a dignitary to travel on a beaten up old cargo ship. Whereas if it's a luxury looking yacht, you absolutely would expect it. And I suppose one of the key things about passengers is they essentially they just naturally lead on to missions. If you're carrying a hated potentate, it's quite possible someone might try and assassinate them whilst you're carrying them. You may be carrying a princess who, everything from people who are wanting to take hostages or things like that, they get interesting. But I think the other point is the passengers themselves may have things that they want to do. So, for example, and this is looking more and more into the future, but things like big game hunting, where they want to go to an out of the middle of nowhere place, do some hunting and bring back some rare dinosaur or whatever that they've gone and hunted from the planet. Or they may want to go on an excursion around a certain named list of planets, because it might be where one of the early settlers went. So all of those things, I think, is an additional layer of richness we can bring to the game. And the ships themselves would be very sort of optimized for speed, optimized for comfort. They may well have some weaponry, but it's a different balance. Again, it's a different class of ship in the same way we have the other classes of ship that we've already talked about. Now, this is a forthcoming DDF topic, so for those on the design discussion forums, please join in. I think the input has been fantastic so far on other topics, so I look forward to seeing the results of that. Now also, I'd like to answer some questions. So to start with, from John Stabler, what would happen in Elite Dangerous if a pilot attempted to fly their ship through Saturn's rings? Now, in one of the very early videos, I think you saw me flying with Igor through what were a planet's rings. And so you'll see that when you see them up close, they will be very, very large rocks, or a mix of sizes. The point is, if you flew very fast through them, you might get away with it, but you might also hit one of those rocks, as I think I did at the end of that video. So that's essentially what would happen. It's not a terribly good idea. You could aim away from the rings, and that would be the best plan. So, next question. Fangrim. Will the NPC capital ships be destroyable by players, single or in a group, or are they simply too massive for us to even make a dent? So, the answer is yes, but it will be very, very hard. So, it's plausible in a group. Some of the missions may even focus around that. They're not intended to be something that you would just kill like that. In fact, more likely it will be the other way around. This will be some sort of enforcement ship come in after you've done something terrible. But there will be times where you might see two of these ships actually taking each other on. We do expect there to be civil wars breaking out. We expect there to be enforcement actions by the Federation, by the Empire, and also by the Alliance, where you might have a system where the Navy's been taken over by some local sort of head honcho, and there's a battle forming out, people can turn up and actually can side with one side or the other. I did mention this during the Kickstarter campaign, where we expected players could choose to side with whichever side, and the balance of the way the players take that out, take that on, would determine the outcome. And the way that would be done visually is you will see that if players weigh in on one side or another, essentially by shooting at a big capital ship and its fighters, that you will eventually take it out, and that is the way that battle would be won. So I think the answer is yes, but not trivially, and in general it would be a very bad idea to try it. Okay, next question from Mobius. By trying to cater for everyone's tastes, do you think that there may be an issue with making the game too complicated for its own good? Well, firstly, I absolutely agree with the question. It's something that with all games I'm very, very concerned about. It's very, very easy to try and, what we often call sort of kitchen sink game design, where you say, oh yes, put that in, and you end up with something that is just a mishmash. So it's not just the complexity that can cause a problem, it's making it so that you try and make it appeal to all audiences, and actually it doesn't appeal to any audience properly. With Elite Dangerous, to try and address that, when we set out, we are making the game for ourselves, for some value of ourselves. So actually that means we've got a very clean way of judging whether something is additive or not. The other thing that we've said is, from the point of view of the kitchen sink and looking at the future, is there are a lot of things that we do want to add, but we will add them gradually over time, and that's the way to gradually build on a sort of essentially a solid foundation, and to build something that is great, where we would initially roll out new features to a select group and gradually bring them into the game, and then there will be things that people can opt into doing. So I think overall, yes, it is a big concern. We are looking very carefully at it. We will do our best not to do it, but I think it would be overly arrogant to say there won't be elements where we'll get it wrong, but we will improve it with time. But because we've got such a clear focus of who we're aiming for, i.e. ourselves, that I think that will help hugely. Okay, another one from Philip Coots. My kids are desperate to get a cat, so they're getting one for their birthday. Any idea for a good name? Well, not especially relevant to the game, but I suppose it has to be Jameson. And then, next one, Flavio. Will we have maintenance or construction yards for us to dock at if we need to upgrade, fix or sell our ship, or will that still be done at the port? Okay, so yes, we will. They may be connected in big orbital structures. You will even be able to see ships that are in construction. That's how you can tell it's a shipyard. Simple maintenance could be just done in the docking bay. That's something we're currently looking at, what exactly the balance is. But certainly in terms of buying new ships and things like that, you will have to go to a special place, and that's how it will be done. Within the docking bay, there are areas for simple upgrades that you might do, or maintenance that it's done in situ. Just because I think it would be too irritating to have to continually go to other places. But yes, it will be done at a special place. Now, finally, from Giro123. Video games have come a long way since Elite and Frontier. Games in general are more intuitive and casual than they ever were before. That is especially true for genres that have been traditionally hardcore. How do you see Elite Dangerous fitting in these new standards? Well, I think this sort of touches on Mobius's question as well. Firstly, I think there are sort of different aspects of it. There is the quality of the game. Hopefully, you're seeing that it will be up there in terms of quality of the game with everything else that's out, and hopefully sort of leading it in terms of the quality of the game. Terms like core and hardcore and casual are also they're things that often frustrate me, because they're catch-alls that are used for different kinds of gameplay styles, different audiences, without really a regard to which of those things that people mean. And also how easy a game is. How much attention do you do? Are you expected to play it while watching television or whatever? And so, to go back to my answer to Mobius's question, because I think it is still an important one. the game will, I think by a lot of people, be considered fairly core because we've said we're writing the game for ourselves. But in the sense of the audience, a lot of the audience will be gamers just because of the nature of the game that we're making. What we're not trying to do is dumb it down, but what we are trying to do is make it approachable. Because there's another aspect to this, is how accessible is a game. When you sit down in front of it, in front of a game, do you have to do a huge amount of learning, even if you're a core gamer, to be able to play it? And it's that versus the difficulty of the task when you're there. And often those two are combined. There are a lot of games out there that have really hard learning curves, just because there's so much to be able to get anything decent out of the game before you feel you can truly participate. What we're hoping is you would be able to get into the game very quickly, but then build on the richness, particularly because you've got a beginning ship when you first start the game. There will be actually a lot less you can do than later on in the game. But it is something we are going to keep an eye on, and I'm sure all of the people who very kindly donated to Kickstarter and are part of the forums now and will be part of the beta will keep us honest on that. So yes, it is something that we have to be aware of, but that's true of all games, and it's something that is very, very important. Thank you very much for watching this Elite Dangerous Dev Diary. I'll speak to you again soon. As you see, no jumper. It's great. It's 30 degrees outside now. But of course, we're head down working on Elite Dangerous, making a fantastic game, which we're very, very excited about. Speak to you again soon, and thank you.